I know you've been reading all the headlines, so let me ask you something. How do you think the Southern California housing market's doing right now? Hold that thought, because the data I pulled for March tells a different story than whatever you just came up with. And there are a few numbers in here that are going to surprise you, regardless of which direction you were leaning. It's time for the Southern California Housing Market Report. I couldn't wait to dive into the March data. Another interesting March with Iran invasion causing changes in the market. When else have we had crazy Marches? Well, March of 2020, if you remember that. That's when COVID hit. And then very end of February 2022 into March of 2022, that was the invasion of the Ukraine by Russia. And that's where mortgage interest rates started going through the roof. We had mortgage interest rates looking good. This black line, you can see that dip from COVID, 3.45 in 2020, down to 3% 2021 in March. And then things changed and have been up since February 2026. We're actually below 6% for mortgage interest rates, under that psychological barrier. And then things changed and they have since gone up. This is just the average. They're actually higher right now. The red line, new listings. So that is seller supply. And what do you see year over year? Big drop. And you'll see this across all counties for the single family data that we're showing you. Sellers are not confident in this market, so they've decided not to list and sell their property. White line, those are pending sales. So that's buyer confidence. There's buyers out there writing in offers. Year over year in Orange County, it's flat. And then the yellow line is the number of closed sales. And we can see a slight increase year over year. The reason we're seeing that increase year over year in closed sales is it was looking good. January and February, we were seeing pending sales up. 2026 was on track to improve. Look, still not like more normal years, 2018 and 2019, when you look at those numbers, but we are heading in a positive direction, getting closer to those numbers, and March changed things. LA, same thing with the new listings, not as low as 2023 and 2024, but definitely a drop year over year. Pending sales up slightly, very flat. Closed sales up because pending sales were up. Buyers were more confident. Riverside, drop in new listings. You can see the general trend. Sellers saw what was happening and decided they were not going to put their homes on the market. And that is a big change because this is around the time of year you typically do that. Spring buying, selling season. Up slightly for pending. New sales up. San Bernardino, down for new listings. I'm repeating myself. Up slightly for pending sales. So it is actually interesting to note that pending sales are up. So the buyers were out there writing offers. It seemed like the market was slower. It seemed like stuff wasn't moving as quickly. But according to these numbers, it was moving faster than we had in years past. Ventura, you're always doing your own thing. Down, matching the number of down listings, but your pending sales have dropped. San Diego, down for new listings, slightly up pending sales. We will have to see what happens if we can get those mortgage interest rates down and we can get those gas prices down and we can get the stock market back up. We could potentially still recover and have a normal spring buying selling season. Median home price madness, madness, madness. I never get sick of saying that. I hope you don't either. First, checking out single family homes. Then we're going to compare it with condos and townhomes. So this is the time of year where the median home price goes up. No shocker. We should see month over month this number increase. And in fact, we have seen that increase, which is good news. Now, year over year, things are looking a little different. You can see OC is up 0.2% year over year for single family. LA is down 0.3%. Riverside's up 1.4%. Now, look, we're not seeing those big negative numbers that we had relatively recently. It is stabilized. And when you factor in inflation, these really aren't big increases in value. Something to continue to watch. We have to see if this is just a cool spot in the market because of what's going on with Iran, or if this is a trend where values will stay flat through the year or even go the other way. Now we're looking at the condos and townhomes. And unfortunately in LA, we see a month over month drop. Not typical this time of year, not a good sign for LA for condos and townhomes. And then you'll see in the median home price year over year, another negative thing. Orange County is up 1.6% year over year for condos and townhomes. Speaking of negative, LA County down 4.3% for condos and townhomes year over year. That's a big drop. Riverside's up 1%. On to the next 3 counties. What's going on there? How are we looking on the other 3 counties for single family homes? Well, we've got a dip, and that's in San Bernardino, that month over month dip, and San Diego is pretty flat month over month. So not typical. We're supposed to see things going up. San Bernardino, year over year, down 1.8%. Ventura, you're still climbing your way up, 1.7%. And San Diego, in the positive side, 2.4% year over year for single-family median home price. Condos and townhomes, look at that big drop we have in Ventura and in San Bernardino for the month-over-month number. That is a huge drop. We shouldn't be seeing that. And wow, year over year, holy smoke, San Bernardino down 8.2% for condos and townhomes. We're down 9% for Ventura, and San Diego's down 1.7%. So the condos in these counties are not doing well, all losing value year over year. And if those drops continue, we're going to see some big negative numbers in some of these areas for condos and townhomes. Look, if you've got real equity sitting in Southern California real estate right now, the market is giving you a clear message. But whether that message suggests you should move or you should hold, that depends entirely on your personal situation. If you want someone to give honest advice, reach out. That's what we do. Altos Research Reports. You love them. I love them. Subscribe if you haven't. National data first. How are we looking at the national level? I'm looking at median days on market. I want to see, and yeah, they're dropping, which is typical this time of year as folks start writing more offers. But at a national level, this PIP is about the highest we've had at this point in time, going back as far as the data covers here. So taking longer to sell properties, not as long as it took in December and January. That took almost 3 months, but still a long time. The other important thing to look at are the market segments, the quartiles, and we're going to be pointing these out in the respective counties because there's interesting movement in here, or lack of movement is maybe the better word. You can see new versus absorbed for the top of the market. We have fewer properties that were absorbed than new. This time of year, the busy spring buying selling season, typically we see more properties being absorbed than new properties coming to the market. So there's certain quartiles where it's not moving as quickly. Other interesting thing to see, days on market, middle of the market moving faster than the bottom and top of the market. Always interesting to see when the bottom is moving slower than properties above it. That's affordability, and it shows you that people are having trouble affording homes when the very bottom of the market can't move. How are we looking at the state of California level? Days on market, about the same as last year. Not as bad as 2023, but not as good as 2022. Holy smokes, only 2 weeks for property to go under contract this time of year in 2022. And that's when mortgage interest rates were starting to go up. So everybody was writing offers when they saw the increase. And another important thing, new versus absorbed. The top 2 quartiles, more properties coming to the market, more new inventory than absorbed inventory. So we got to keep tracking this. We should not be seeing this in the spring buying selling season. Should be more properties absorbed. So definitely some trends to watch. Let's keep on zooming in. Orange County, again, similar tale of days on market, about the same as 2023, and a similar case where the top of the market, there's fewer properties absorbed, and days on market on the bottom of the market, the bottom 2 quartiles, 21 days, moving pretty quickly. Los Angeles, days on market, about the longest it's been since 2023 when it was the same at 49 days. The top of the market not being absorbed, and look at that, 98 days, so almost 100 days at the top. Also interesting to see at the bottom of the market taking longer than that next quartile. Interesting when the bottom is moving slower, and we'll see that in a few other counties. And that quartile there as well got a lot to track in this data. Riverside, days on market down, but not like the last couple years. Now here's one where we're seeing absorbed properties are actually greater than new, and days on market, again, a bottom taken slightly longer than the other quartiles. In fact, actually more properties selling in the second quartile than the bottom quartile. Interesting to see the variation. San Bernardino, days on market, looking pretty good. and new versus absorbed. In every case, we got more being absorbed than new. Another one where the bottom of the market is taking the longest to sell. Always funny to see that. And also, we have more of the top of the quartile properties selling than we have at the bottom. So something going on at the bottom. That pushing of affordability is making it tough. Ventura days on market looking good, better than March of 2023, which was in many of these cases the longest days on market. The top quartile, not as many absorbed. That's actually a big gap when you've got 25 new and only 10 absorbed. That's a big gap. Almost 100 days there as well for the top of the market, and bottom of the market taken slightly longer than that next tier up. San Diego days on market similar to last year. New versus absorbed, top slow. And then we've got that second quartile slightly slow. Bottom moving at 28 days, pretty quick. But we should expect to see the top here, that 63 days, start to go longer. A lot of variety. Of course, you need to dive into your local neighborhood for variation as well, and you can do that in the Altos research reports. Just subscribe. Multifamily numbers, one of the only places you're going to get this data. Mortgage interest rates, the effect for investors is it reduces cash flow. More money going to debt service reduces the amount that's going to kick out after expenses. The number of new listings has dropped. Now that trend is not going to be the same like it was for single family. Pending sales down and closed sales down. I expect, based on what I'm seeing for sales in Orange County, I do expect next month that the numbers will look better. We're seeing a lot of properties go under contract towards the tail end here of the month. LA multifamily. Now here's an outlier. We're seeing more new listings. LA has got tough rent control. More landlords are waking up to those issues, and there's more legislation that's passed. LA County unincorporated. Now a renter has to be behind 2 months of the HUD fair market rent for a rental before the landlord can move forward with an eviction. And that, in many cases, if rents are low, could be 4 or 5 months worth of rent that a landlord has to be behind before starting the unlawful detainer. Not easy to be a landlord. We also have a video we're releasing where we're showing how many properties are losing values even after being owned for a decade. Fascinating numbers. Slightly up for pending sales, sales flat. Riverside had a big spike last year in inventory and now a big drop this year. Same number of properties going under contract as new listings. San Bernardino, pretty flat for the past few years here on the number of new listings. Drop year over year in pending sales. So even though the mortgage interest rates were higher a year ago, this has rattled some confidence, and maybe a few investors decided to write fewer offers. Ventura, you're always doing your own thing. Only 2 went under contract in Ventura. That looks to be a record low for this time of year. Congrats. San Diego, big spike in inventory, higher than normal years, 2018, 2019. So interesting to see the number of properties. Now, San Diego is passing some legislation that some landlords may say they want to get their properties out. Essentially, a new inspection board is going to be set up in San Diego. So that could be why we're seeing landlords listing their properties. At the same time, the pending sales are up, and other than the record years of record low interest rates, this is still a high number of properties going under contract. There's your multifamily numbers. So what does all this data mean? Sellers have gone quiet across every county in Southern California. We're seeing new listings drop for home sales. They looked at what was happening in the market and decided to wait. But buyers are still out there, and some are even writing offers. The demand didn't disappear, and if sellers stay on the sidelines, buyers will run out of things to buy. Now, technically, we're just inside the spring buying and selling season. There's still a window where we can actually have a normal season, but every week that drags on, that window gets a little smaller. And the longer the uncertainty holds, the harder it is to get back to normal before the summer hits and the market shifts again. The end of uncertainty is uncertain right now. Here's the honest answer on where things go from here. Nobody knows. And anyone telling you otherwise, they're just guessing. What I will tell you is this: real estate decisions are entirely personal. What the market is doing is one input. Your equity position, your timeline, your tax situation, your goals and needs, those are the other inputs. And those don't change because of what's happening in Iran or what the Fed does next month or the month after. So as always, you do you. Make the decision that makes the most sense for your situation right now, not the market situation, yours. That's the March data. We'll be back next month to see if the spring window held open or slammed shut. As for your next real estate move, It's to check out this next video right here.